Thank you, Rawdon. Raising the pension age, making KiwiSaver compulsory and hiking employer contributions are key but controversial aspects of Labor's new savings policy. National says raising the pension age is Labor's way of paying for its promises. But who really pays for these changes? Joining us now is Amanda Morrall, the personal finance editor at interest.co.nz. Good morning to you, Amanda.
Good morning, Nadine.
What has been the general reaction to this plan from Labor, from the savings industry?
I'd say all around, they're actually quite positive about these changes. I think it's an acknowledgement, or they're saying it's an acknowledgement by Labor that we do have a savings problem on our hands, that more people are going to start having to save for their retirement futures, and this is finally some political willpower to address the necessary changes.
I guess one that has long been considered political suicide, so a bold move?
It is a bold and a brave move. I think most acknowledge that, but a necessary one. I mean, how much further can you kick this can down the road before there's people who just don't have enough money to live off in old age? So it's some foresight and quite a necessary step.
But I suppose some might say some don't have the money to live off day to day at the moment, so there are also some considerations there.
Yeah, that's true. I think for a segment of the population, they just might not be able to cut it, those who are living in chronic debt, and I think those sort of advocating for poverty would recognize that. They weren't a voice that I heard from yesterday, but I know from past financial summits that I've attended that has been signaled as a big problem. Among the players in the industry, they're saying government will have to recognize that if they do go down this route, if Labor's policy was accepted, should they win the election, that there should be some consideration to the ability to opt out, who can do it and how that's going to play out.
And raising the employer contribution up to overtime to 7%, I guess on the face of it, to some might say, how are employers going to afford this? But are they just going to pass it on?
That's it, exactly. It's just a trade-off for wage growth. So at the end of the day, it's employees who will stomach the increase in KiwiSavers. For me, what it raises the importance of knowing what you're getting paid, what the rate of inflation is, taxes. So you can price all those things into salary negotiations. And certainly if I was a university student right now, that's the course I'd want to be taking about how to handle your wage negotiations in the future with your employer.
So you just perhaps need to be a bit more savvy.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, employers know what they're doing. They know the pricing. A lot of employees, they walk into their first job, accept what they're offered without really considering it. They just kind of feel grateful to have a job. But it's quite important that you're getting properly remunerated and with consideration of retirement savings on top of that. In other countries, it's not uncommon to be getting, quite a generous employer contributions. That's being scaled back a little bit these days as people are trying to adjust their budgets. But it's a reality that that a lot of people just sort of adjust for.
What about those who are already in retirement savings schemes that aren't KiwiSaver? They might say, I don't want to be forced into this scheme that I can't take my money out of until I get to 65. How would the two work alongside each other? Yeah,
there was an official with Workplace Savings who raised that issue and said that would need to be resolved. There actually are some alternative schemes that are quite good. I was in one previously. People won't want to give those up lightly. Labor's indicated that they'll have to become KiwiSaver compliant, so reading in between the lines, that means that they'll have to be locked into 65, whereas before you would have the option of taking a bit of that money out if you changed employers. So there's more flexibility in that, and losing that would be something that people wouldn't easily or readily want to give up, I don't think.
What about the idea of raising the age of eligibility for the pension up to 67? It's happening in a lot of countries around the world. Some saying it's inevitable. Do we need to see a bit of political consensus on this topic? Yeah, there's been a demand for some political consensus. I mean, people are kind of getting sick of not knowing what's going on with KiwiSaver. Is going to be compulsory or not? The future of New Zealand super is in question. So, I mean, when this election is over, it would be great if the political parties across the spectrum could sit down and reach some sort of agreement that sort of secures the future for New Zealanders. They don't have to worry about it. There's a plan, and they can just adjust for it accordingly and just get on with it instead of having to fret and worry and then be stuck with a problem in 20, 30 years' time. Perhaps not a popular policy, but one that needs to be addressed at some point. Thank you, Amanda.
Absolutely.
That is Amanda Morrall, the personal finance editor at interest.co.nz.